Hi everybody, it's Christy with Clarity by Christy, and today is your first class for the Connecting with Your Magic class, and I'm really excited to get started. I'm so excited, in fact, that I'm here when I'm sick because I really wanted to get some things going with this class. I felt that that was time-wise and timing-wise really important for us to start with some things today. So I think probably, as you can hear, I'm having a little bit of a hard time speaking and breathing and things like that. So I think probably I'm just going to cover certain aspects of the course today, and then a little bit later in the week, I'm going to squeeze in the second half of this. So this is going to be the first half, unless for some reason I find my second wind and just kind of fly through this. So welcome. I'm excited to have you guys here. If you are watching live, if you're watching on the replay, let me know. Let me know. Make sure you comment. You know, are things resonating with you? Are things connecting with you? This is all about you guys, you know, and so whatever questions you have throughout the course, I want you to throw these up in the group. The group is going to be an important place for us to connect, an important place for us to meet, because this is really where I can respond with you guys, how I can just like answer your questions, how I can clarify things, because certainly if I say something and if it's not clear, I'd rather have you guys ask about that. And so just making sure that you are putting things out there and having conversations. This is a safe space. This is a closed group. No one is able to have access to it except for the people who have signed up for this course. And so we're going to be getting to know each other quite a bit better during this course. This is all about connecting with intuition, and one of the tools along the way that I'm going to teach you to use a little bit are oracle cards or tarot cards. Oracle cards are a little bit easier to connect with, but I'm going to be incorporating in my classes messages for you guys through the cards. So I kind of want to start with that and see what the cards have to say for us, for our group. So we'll just see what these cards have to say. What are the messages right now? What do we need to know for our highest and best good right now, as we're starting this class? Anybody joining live? I don't think so. I didn't really... Thank you guys for being patient with me too. I was supposed to do this today at noon, and didn't do that. I feel called to pull one more, so let's see. All right, let's see what we've got here. So this card says, and this is my mermaid deck, watch your thoughts. Okay, so be aware of what you're focusing your thinking on, and we're going to be focusing a lot on this in this course. What you're putting your thoughts into, what you're putting your energy into, is what you're creating in your life. And since the last time that I have taught intuition, and you know, I teach Intuition 101 quite a bit. Since the last time I've taught that course, I've shifted a couple of things, and I'll talk about that in terms of what I'm putting energy into, because I'm becoming more and more aware of, you know, even if it seems like a good idea, even if it seems like something we should be focused on, by focusing too much on certain things, you're actually manifesting issues connected to that. So for example, I'm going to talk about psychic filtering versus psychic protection. I used to talk a ton about psychic protection. I used to be all about it. But really, we're going to be focusing quite a bit in this course about just inviting in that energy of love and letting that do the filtering for you, because filtering is such a different energy, you know, than protection. It's such a different thing. So just kind of flowing with what I'm sharing with you. It might be a little bit different than what you're used to, but I feel like my intentions behind this is I really want to take our thoughts, our energies, our focus to an even higher vibration than I've taught similar courses in the past. So, because this is about connecting with your magic, and how you connect with your magic is through connecting with that high vibe energy, which is not connected with words like protection. So making sure that we're aware of your thoughts. So be mindful. Start to pay attention to your thoughts as we're going into this course, and start to pay attention to what comes up for you. Positive energy, right? Surround yourself with positive people and situations and avoid negativity. So this is all about making sure that we are surrounding ourselves with good vibes, just like I was talking about before. That is a priority, and I want you to be really mindful as we're going into this course, the kind of people and situations that you are surrounding yourself with, because that's huge. And if you are doing all this work in here and then you spend time with all these people who are presenting with a lot of negativity, or present in a way that shows that they don't necessarily believe in you or support your dreams or whatever, or people who are really living in fear. Some of the people who maybe would say that they love us the most, and they do, but are very fear-based. They're very focused on worry. And when you worry about somebody, you are sending negative energy their way. So that's really important just to think about, and to think about what kind of energy you're putting out there. Again, I really want to emphasize that that's going to be a huge priority here in this course. And so anytime that you go into these worries or what could go wrong or things like that, not that that's going to always manifest, because the angels will block a lot of that, but you are sending negative energy a person's way. And so you really want to, like, for example, if somebody was going on a trip and you were like, that makes you nervous, right? That can make you nervous if they're going on a long trip or something. You might say instead, like, happy travels, I'm surrounding you in light, things like that, and really just thinking about surrounding that person in light rather than what could go wrong, or that could be an unsafe situation for them. So like my mom used to always say, drive carefully, which is fine, right? But a higher vibrational energy, a higher vibrational focus and thought would be, I'm sending you light and happy travels. Something like that would be higher vibrational. So we're going to be aiming for just higher vibrational stuff and moving into that. So that's going to be a big part of our focus. And then the next card is simplify your life. Eliminate clutter from your home and work life to balance the flow of activities. Okay, so maybe part of this process for us in this is going to be about clearing. A lot of people have been talking about, and I don't remember the name of it, but the show that was recently put up on Netflix, but it's based on her book, and it's all about clearing out clutter and things like that. I'll try to share a link so that you guys know what I'm talking about if you don't know what I'm talking about, but it's really about finding your joy through release, through letting go of stuff. And I know for me personally, this is something that is going to be a focus for me, is clearing things out and releasing all of this stuff, because it all carries energy, it all holds energy. And so we just want to let go of certain things that maybe no longer serve us, or are just kind of stagnant energy or taking up space in our life. So you might be doing some of this. You might be doing some of this emotionally, mentally, through this process as well. You might be releasing a lot. So you might find that this course is a little bit emotional for you. You might find that you're working through a lot of stuff. So it may not be like all love, light, butterflies and rainbows and unicorns. It might be some of that. It definitely will be some of that, because this is about finding the magic. But sometimes finding your magic is about drudging your way through the mud first, doing the work, getting that stuff cleared out so that you can be lighter, so that you can connect with these higher vibrational energies. So I'm excited for that. And certainly, last but not least, alchemy. And this just says you have the Midas touch right now, and every project you begin turns to gold. And there's such a cool energy right now of newness, and we're focusing on new projects and things like that. And so if you're getting this message, if you're in this group, trust that you have the magic touch right now. Trust that whatever it is that you're working on, I would love to have you guys share some of the things that you have going on in your life, and maybe do a little introduction here in the group. What do you have going on in your life, and where are you at, and what do you want to work on, and what are your goals, and what do you see as potentially your journey as we're diving into this course? So I would love to hear that from you guys. I'll probably post that as a post. And that's the way that this course is going to work, is I'll be posting. So you're going to want to be checking the group regularly. You might want to go to the notifications and set it so that you're getting notifications for everything that's being posted, because I'm going to be sharing resources. I'm going to be sharing homework assignments. I'm going to be sharing posts for you to respond to. And, you know, I'm not somebody that I'm going to like chase you down and expect you to do your homework. This is like what you're going to put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And so, you know, that's up to you, and no judgment, because I also understand that there are times and there are situations where maybe you're not able to get to this stuff, or where you're going to miss a post or whatever. Like, I get it. I'm busy too. And so just trying, I think, to really invest in yourself and invest your time and your energy in yourself as much as you possibly can, because I think so many of us who are connected to me are people who are light workers, and light workers are people who are here to bring more light onto this planet, right? Like, that's the basic definition of that. But light workers tend to put other people before themselves, and so this can be a real challenge, because you can get sort of lost in the shuffle and not make yourself a priority. And it's important that you're making yourself a priority here. So let's dive in a little bit. Let's start to talk about intuition. And you'll see I'm like going to connect with an outline so that I make sure that I follow this flow of what I intended for the class. And I will post this as well in the group so that you can download this to look at it, so you can download this to print it, whatever you want to do. You are more than welcome to do that. So we're going to start with intuition, because intuition to me is the most important thing. Intuition is our connection to what I call God. And you'll see here in this group that I respect whatever it is that is for you, because I feel like to me it's all just, like the wording of it anyway. Like, it's a similar concept, or you may have a different concept of what God or the universe or whatever that is, and that's okay. Like, we're all here to respect each other. We're all here to just honor each other's beliefs and where we're coming from, and your own individual path and your own individual journey. So if there's ever something that I share with you that you're like, wow, that really doesn't resonate for me, that's okay. I'm not going to be offended. I think that you are more than welcome to have your own beliefs. In fact, I invite that. I think that that's our spirituality is such a private thing. It's such no two people are going to have the exact same beliefs. And I honor that. I think whenever we start to kind of try to pick that apart in people is when we get into this energy of fear that we're going to be talking a lot about in this course. But our intuition is, I always like to say, it's like our umbilical cord to God, right? And we connect with that through this crown chakra, and it's our umbilical cord to God. It's how we receive that divine love to us, but it's also how we receive the information for living our best life. It's how we know that, what decisions to make. And by the way, intuition can be subtle. A lot of times it doesn't smack you in the face. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it doesn't. And so it can be a little bit tricky as you're learning how to trust your intuition, and you kind of have to learn how to get a feel for it. And even now still, as much as I've tweaked this and worked on this, there are times that I doubt that, but there are times that I just can feel the pure truth of whatever it is that I'm feeling. And I've learned to just sort of trust that, even if it doesn't make logical sense to me. That's a tough thing to do, but you know what? A lot of times your intuition isn't going to make logical sense, which is a little bit crazy. And, as somebody who has really, really worked on not controlling things, that was a tough one for me for a long time, because it was like, oh, okay, so you want me to just blindly trust that everything's going to be okay if I follow this impulse, if I follow this thought, if I follow this vision, whatever it is, however you're experiencing it. And we'll talk about that. If I experience that, or if I follow that, you're telling me I'm going to be fine. You're telling me that this is going to lead to something important. And it's funny because a lot of times intuition is not like a direct path into something. It's like, I always say, it's like a trail of breadcrumbs, right? So it's like we follow one impulse and it gets us to one place, and we still might not have any idea why we're doing it. And then we follow another impulse and it takes us to another place. Maybe like this is a good time for me to share sort of my journey with intuition a little bit, because that's kind of how it came to be here with Clarity. So I worked as a licensed mental health counselor. I, was actually the program coordinator for a counseling program and was pretty happy doing that. I mean, I wasn't getting paid really well, but I was happy. It felt like family. It felt like home. And I really thought, I'm going to retire from here. This is my place. This is my home. And then all of a sudden, I just started to get uncomfortable. I started to look around and go, you know what? I feel like there has to be more to life than this. I feel like I need more in my life, that I'm kind of just going through the motions. It was very much like the same structure every day, very predictable. I would use my intuition to guide my counseling processes, but that was something that, and maybe I'll tell those stories later, but that was something that I had blocked off several years before that. And so I really wasn't exploring that. And so once I started to look around, pretty soon after that, my former business partner, Nicole, came to me and came into my office. I was her supervisor, and said, I have to tell you something. And she seemed so nervous, and I was trying to figure out, like, what is it that she has to tell me? Am I going to have to fire her? I was so worried. And then she said, I'm a psychic medium, and this has all of a sudden started to come out in me. And I'm starting to read people, and I'm starting to read certain situations, and my guides are very clear with me that you're supposed to do this too, and that you're supposed to start to connect with your intuition a little bit more. And I can remember that day, just the way that my chest felt, the way that my heart felt. I was like, it was like this pressure on my heart for 2 days. And I now understand that was my heart chakra kind of going crazy, and I'm now used to this experience, because I kind of know whenever I have that I am processing a lot of information and energy, and that my life is never going to be the same, or that whatever is about to happen is really, really important in my life. So I will get that feeling in my chest when that happens. And so I've kind of learned to listen to that. And we're going to talk about that, our body being our intuitive tool. And so we can oftentimes interpret things like that as anxiety, as I'm having a panic attack, whatever. But when you can recognize that it is energy, that is your body responding to something within the energy around you, it's very, very helpful, because then you begin to learn, what does it look like when I'm actually feeling stressed, and what does it look like when I'm just processing energy? And so I've kind of learned over the time to recognize that and to get a better sense of that. So anyway, so she said that to me, and I remember having that feeling, and relatively quickly we just like dove in with the intuition development classes and did a lot of work with some people out in Buffalo. And it was within like a week of her saying that I started to just randomly see auras around people. So I'm doing counseling sessions, and I started to see people's auras, and then I started to see angels with people, and it just got sort of tricky, where I was like, well, this is kind of tough for me to do counseling with people when I can't acknowledge the angel that's standing in the room that's giving messages for them. And so I was feeling like these little impulses, but still not clear that I even ever intended to leave this place. It was just like, oh, just take this class, explore this is a fun hobby, whatever. And then I felt really compelled to get trained in hypnotherapy and hypnosis, and so I did that. That was like, I think, a 6-month process or whatever, and still it was like, okay, cool, this is like, I'll add this to my counseling skills, whatever. And then I felt compelled to take a Reiki class and ultimately to get my master in Reiki. And again, it was like, okay, like this is a helpful tool. And suddenly, pretty quickly, I just was getting more and more uncomfortable with work, and I was feeling like I couldn't use some of these skills that I had to help people in that situation. Like, I couldn't do Reiki on people there. I couldn't work on their energy, and I would feel this big draw to be able to do that. And so relatively quickly, Nicole and I got uncomfortable with that together, and we decided, you know, maybe we could start a little business on the side. So again, like, that was the next impulse. Let's start a little business on the side. And we looked for an office, and there was a lot of assistance with that from the universe. We had manifested an office that was very, very cheap that we shared, but it was perfect for our first start. So we got that office, and then I, you know, rather than always working evenings outside of work, I asked to drop to fewer hours at my job, and I started to do that. So that was the next impulse. And then over time, I added in another day at Clarity and another day less at my job, and it got to a point where that job, I actually got a new boss, and I've never had an issue with a boss. I've never not been, I mean, I've always been a little bit of a people pleaser. It's always been something I've actually tried to work on not being, but that's always been, so I've always wanted to impress my boss, and I had somebody new come in, and we just did not click at all. And it was, I would say I'm thankful for her, because had she not come in, I don't know that it would have pushed me out of my comfort zone enough to say, finally, I'm having the impulse to leave and go to this full time. And so I eventually did that, and that was really scary for me. Very stressful, very, it was a process of getting myself there, and I had a lot of panic attacks in the process. I mean, it definitely was a leap of faith. I didn't have money in my savings account. I had no plan. I had clients on those 2 days, but I didn't have, you know, it was like I still had 3 days left to fill with clients and plenty of bills to pay. And so that was a big impulse for me. That was a big step. So I took that step, and it took a little time. You know, there's this beautiful, I should share this in here, but Steve Harvey has this video, and he talks about taking a leap of faith, and you'll never know unless you take that leap. But he also says that once you leap, it's going to take a little while for your parachute to open, and you're going to probably fall a little bit. You're probably going to get bumps and bruises and be bleeding on your way down, but eventually your parachute will open. And that was my experience. You know, it was a little tough at first. It was, there were challenges, and there still are, but I just continue to follow the impulses. And as I've grown, there's been so many, and I'll try to fast forward in this so that I'm not going too slow with this. But then it became, one morning I got the very clear impulse. Like, I woke up and there was angels standing around my bed, and they said, today you're going to make a video. And I had done some videos with Nicole and wasn't terribly comfortable with doing that, even when I was alongside her. And it was kind of like, well, are you sure? I don't really want to do that. I'm not sure that I'm meant to do that on my own. And it was like, no, you're going to make some videos today. And I've kind of learned in the process that I just need to listen. And so I had a very busy day that day. I was absolutely terrified. I don't even think that my video was very fantastic, but I did it. And that's the thing, is you have to start somewhere. And so even if you start now with the things that you want to be working on, start now, because your first video, your first whatever is probably, you don't have the experience, but you have to start somewhere. And I just put it out, and actually people responded really well to it, and that just grew and grew and grew, and that led to me applying to, a position that I was in. I've since left that opportunity, but with the Leo King, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He's a celebrity astrologer out in LA, and I worked on his app for a little while making videos. I got chosen out of, thousands of people who had applied, and had I never made that video that day, I wouldn't have had that experience. And now I've taken everything that I've learned through that experience with Future Life, which is the name of the app, and learned about lighting and learned about making videos and bringing my videos to the next level and bringing my classes to the next level. And so I've taken all of that whole skill set, and brought that up, leveled up with things, and now I'm using it to create classes for you guys and videos for you guys, free videos for you guys, and things like that. So it's like these impulses, and some people could say, well, you know, you chose to leave that, and so that didn't work out, or that was the wrong path. But I don't ever believe that when we make these decisions that they're the wrong path. I think it led to something else, and like that's it, is like, even if something ends, or even if we can deem it as a failure, which I don't at all see that as a failure. It was a really cool experience that I had in my life. It just was time for me to come back and focus on me, because I was getting pulled away from that, and I wasn't able to create the content that I wanted to create. But even if something does seem like a failure, or it ends, or whatever, even relationships or experiences, whatever that is, a lot of times it's just because we're supposed to learn something from it, or it takes us to the next level, or whatever. So understanding that these little impulses that we follow, which are our intuition, are leading the way the entire way. And so these are those breadcrumbs that are leading our path. And we're not going to probably have the full picture. So people ask me like these really direct psychic questions. You know, what specific job should I get? You know, what's the answer to this? Like, I need to know this answer right now. And it doesn't work like that. First of all, I'm not supposed to tell you the answer. You are supposed to come to the answer yourself, and that is the ideal process of that. And when I do a psychic reading, it's very much about guiding rather than telling, and that's always going to be my approach in the work that I do, because I don't think that my intuition will ever trump yours in terms of what your life, I mean, you're the authority on your life. So just understanding that and trusting. The biggest block to intuition that people have is they don't trust themselves. They struggle with being able to trust what it is that their abilities, and that we trust outside of ourselves. And every time that we trust someone else to tell us the answer, or that we trust someone to make a decision for us, we are doing ourselves an injustice. We are maybe making a lesser decision because we're letting somebody else tell us what to do, rather than, you know, making that decision for ourselves. So that's something that I really want you guys to focus on, is how can I begin to be the authority on my life? How can I tap into what feels right and what feels best? Even when I do a reading, I always say take what makes sense to you and leave the rest, because certainly I've had readings with other people where some of it is true or comes true later, and some of it, like, I know isn't right, and it just doesn't resonate with me, because people are human. I'm human when I'm reading. Other people are human, and sometimes the message just doesn't get delivered correctly. So you will always connect with the message correctly for you, and that's my point. Our intuition is the roadmap for living our best life. It's basically like us connecting with our higher self, or God, or source, or angels, or spirit guides, or I kind of feel like it's a combination of everything. I don't feel like everything's like so compartmentalized. It's all really just energy at the end of the day, right? So, but there are these energies that are of the light that are helping to guide us, that are helping to show us the way. Some of that is our higher self, which is basically another part of our soul that is not down here on this earth, but is guiding the process. And it's us being shown step by step, every step of the way. And when you can tap into that, you really will be shown. Is it going to be like an announcement that flashes across your TV screen with specific, clear directions? Probably not, although sometimes it is. But most of the time it's much more subtle, so you have to learn to trust in the subtle. This is where you're going to be flexing those faith and trust muscles quite a bit, because you got to make a decision, and you've got to trust that the decision that you made is what's best for you, and go with it. So a lot of times it's like, what does it feel like? What should I do? Some of us are going to take a longer time to feel that out than others, but once you have a sense of that, move forward and just trust that it's going to be okay. Some people will say to me, but Christy, I'm not intuitive. Chances are, if you signed up for this course, you're intuitive. But really, everybody's intuitive in their own way. Some people have, more powerful gifts. Some people connect in different ways. We all connect in different ways. So I'm talking about seeing angels, seeing auras with my physical eye. That's not something that most people experience, okay? And that's not the expectation here in this course. Awesome if that happens for you, but we want you to connect intuitively in your way, in your own way that's just true and resonates for you. So honoring your own style and learning to connect with it. And I want you to be really careful about not comparing. Because what will happen is, as people in this group are talking about their experiences, we can look at that and go, oh, wow, well, they're really intuitive, so I must not be because I don't experience it in that way. That's absolutely not true. You just experience it a different way. So we've just got to figure out your style, help you to recognize when you're connecting intuitively. So we're going to be working on that and shaping that as we move along the way. So I talked about where intuition comes from, you know, like the energy around us, angels, God, source of the universe, higher self, all of those things. And it's really about like what you believe too. And I want to honor what you believe in terms of where that comes from. I always like to set the intention in my mind that our intuition is coming only from energy that is of the light. I don't like to dwell on that too much, but I just set that intention here and there so that we are focus the energy. We're going to be talking about intentions this entire time because intentions, and I'll talk about this later, but intentions are the most important thing that you can do in your life. And if you take nothing else away from this class, that is a priority, setting your intentions every day, all the time, in whatever situation, because this is basically how you are putting your order in with the universe. So basically an intention is asking or saying how you want something to be. So you might set an intention for your work day. You know, one of my intentions that I love to set is that I help people in whatever way they need for their highest and best good right now, that I help them in miraculous and magical ways, those kind of things, that I help to connect them with their light. Sorry guys, let me just take a drink. So setting an intention for whatever it is, like maybe you have something coming up and you're not sure, you just want to kind of guide the energy, set an intention. You know, I was talking a little while ago about going for a drive in the car. Set your intention for your ride, but let that be completely positive. Don't let it be, you know, please, you know, I'm intending that we don't get in an accident. No, like that is not the intention that you want to set. I'm intending for happy and easy travels, or something of that nature is going to be a much more higher vibrational intention for you to set for yourself as we're moving forward. So some signs that we're connected to our intuition. I would love to hear from you guys too, how it is that you feel, you know, how do you know when you're connected to your intuition? Maybe some of these examples will sort of spark some things for you. So the first one is trusting your gut, right? Like when you have that gut response, some of us have that. I know I've had the experience of when something feels really wrong for me, my stomach will completely flip upside down. It feels like it's such a weird feeling. So you might have that. Some people just get a little twinge or a tweak in their gut, or just a feeling there, whatever. So it can come from that gut response. And awareness of energy is another way. So just being aware of energy, whether you're walking into a space and you're like, oh, this feels good, or this doesn't feel good, or I feel weird here, or whatever, or you know, I like to be standing in this person's energy field, or I don't like to be standing in this person's energy field, or I'm feeling a particular energy from another person, and what does this feel like for me? And processing that. So an awareness of energy, whether it's in the room, whether it's on a person, whatever. I mean, energy is everything. So processing and being aware of the energy, and then being imaginative, because imagining is like connecting with that creative part of your mind. And so the creative part of our mind is where we connect with our intuition. So if you were wanting to kind of work on doing psychic readings for people, what you would begin to do is to begin to let your imagination sort of go, because some people will say that most of what you experience is actually not your imagination, but is intuitive information that's coming through. But sometimes it does take a little practice to weed through what is the imagination and what is the intuitive information. But when you let yourself sort of imagine, I can remember being in elementary school and daydreaming a lot. I would get in trouble for it, actually, because I would just sort of get lost in my head and imagining all these magical things in my mind and interacting with my guides at the time. And I would just be doing all this stuff. But if you're somebody who's pretty imaginative, chances are that's one of the ways that you're trying to connect with your intuition. And simply by imagining, you can invite that into your process. Deja vu, that feeling of deja vu. Some people say, and I believe this to be true, that it's sort of you remembering yourself on your best life path. You're sort of remembering parts of your soul contract. And deja vu is funny because I don't feel like it happens a lot of times in those big moments, like, you know, you're at a graduation or something and you're like, wow, like this is a huge milestone in my life, and then you have that feeling of deja vu. I feel like a lot of times it's just like those little moments that don't seem particularly important always, but when you have that, it really is a way of like saying like you're right where you need to be, and for whatever reason this experience is important, or you're remembering that soul contract, you're remembering your life path, and in that moment, like there's that slight thinning of the veil where you're remembering that and feeling that. Those times that you think about somebody and you run into them or they call you, that's pretty cool, right? How many of you guys do that? I would love to hear how many of you do that, or how many of you have that experience. I have that happen so often, where like I'll just randomly think of a person and we'll run into them, or I kind of know at this point usually, like if I'm thinking about somebody, I'm probably going to hear from them or run into them because it's our way of like picking up on the energy that's going to be coming back into our experience in some way, or reconnecting for us. Those jinx moments where you and somebody are talking and you say the exact same thing, that's really powerful. That is you kind of vibing with each other and picking up on each other's energy enough to say the same things. I know like one of the ways that my ex-husband was intuitive was he could and can still, I can be thinking things out loud in my mind, and he would say word for word to me what it is that I was thinking. And he wouldn't go, I see you thinking this, but he would just kind of randomly come out with it as a statement. And I was like, always, how do you do that? You know, like that was exactly the thoughts that were running through my mind. So it can look like that as well. Knowing something will happen before it happens. That's another one. Having awareness. Sometimes we have psychic predictions, right? That can come through dreams. That can come during the day. Maybe you just have a feeling about something that's going to happen, and you might not know exactly the details of it, but you get a feeling of it. I can remember there was this one day at home where all of a sudden, out of the blue, I started freaking out, and I started to check all the batteries in our fire alarms, and I just felt weird. Like, I don't know, I need to do this. Something feels weird. Something feels off. And my husband at the time was like, what's going on? And then the very next day, the building that was like 3 places down from my house actually exploded. And luckily there somehow, I don't know how, but somehow there was no damage to any place but that. But I think that I was feeling the energy of that coming. And I can remember when I was changing the batteries and when I was just processing maybe what was to come, I remember just instead of worrying about it, because again, that's negative energy, I just said, whatever is going on, please help. Please God help. Please angels help. I need your help, because this is how the angels can help us, is if we ask for help. And this is the only way that they can help us, is if we ask for help, unless it is a serious safety issue. So I was told later that building, they had called in a gas leak earlier that day, and that somebody came and had turned that down. So that had already been an issue, and they supposedly had fixed it, but the explosion happened hours after that. So maybe that was supposed to be worse. I don't know. Had we not asked for help, whatever. I just remember that ominous feeling. But it's not always that. Sometimes it's like a good feeling. Sometimes it's like, like I had somebody text me today and say, I feel like I'm going to get some answers on this particular thing that I've been worrying about today. It was just her intuition telling her, or, I feel like this situation is going to go well, or you might just have a sense of that. A sense of direction is another way that we're intuitive. So kind of being able to navigate. This is not an intuitive gift that I was blessed with, but I would love to hear if you guys are. That sense of direction can be just like a knowing, a just flowing, a trusting that you know exactly where to go, almost as though you have always been here. I feel that I connect with that a little bit more when I'm in the woods, actually. Sometimes I still get lost in the woods. But if I'm not too in my head and I'm focused more on my intuition and my instinct, that will kick in a little bit more for me. So that's really cool and helpful. Feeling at one with the universe. You know those moments when maybe you look up at the sky and you're just like, wow, this world is awesome, or I feel awesome, or I feel loved and supported, or like those magical moments where you just take a pause and you're like, you know what, this world is a pretty magical place, or I'm so grateful for X, Y, and Z that I have in my life, or I'm so grateful for the support that I have from the universe. And so those kind of moments are also you connecting with your intuition. It's you remembering who you are, who you really are, your power, the magic, the support that you have. It's kind of like for a minute that veil is being lifted and you're connecting with that energy, and the fear is being released. And when the fear is being released, we are tuned in and tapped in. So when you're having those moments and insights come through, let yourself trust that. Let yourself listen to that, because that's really important. And that's really powerful when we can have those moments, and we can invite those moments in by doing things like looking at the sky, doing things that bring you joy, doing things that bring you peace. I have that a lot of times when I'm going for hikes as well, and I'm just trying to view the world with appreciation. When I'm looking at every mushroom and every plant and the animals and the sky and the trees, and I'm just so effing thankful for this world that God has given to us. And I don't know if you guys, for those of you that feel energy, you probably just felt the shift in my energy. Just talking about it shifts that for me and brings me into that gratitude, brings me into that energy. And the more that we can do this is where we are going to be raising our vibration and doing amazing things. So intuitive dreams are another one. I kind of mentioned that already, but sometimes we can have dreams that show us what's about to come or tell us about the energy or things like that. So I also like to talk about with that, because sometimes I've met a lot of people who are very scared by the dreams that they have. Maybe there haven't been a lot of intentions set around that or boundaries set. I want you guys to understand that with that or any intuitive gift that you have, you may set boundaries and the universe will follow that, okay? I can remember being really afraid of angels, okay? Like, I know that sounds crazy, but I had known I had seen them, and I had known, like, I had had these really magical experiences, but when I reconnected, when I was older, in this most recent awakening that I was connecting into, I can remember just, like, kind of being afraid to reconnect with them again, and being afraid because I was aware that I can see things with my physical eye, and I was aware that I probably would see them. And I can remember one of my favorite people who was back in the day writing all of these new age books and sharing all of these ideas was Sylvia Browne. And to me back then, like, she was gospel, and she said that angels were, these big beings that were faceless and huge. And to me that was like terrifying to see this faceless entity standing in front of me. And so I was like, I don't want to see angels. I don't want to see it. And so somebody at one point said to me, Christy, why don't, you can set boundaries around that. Why don't you just ask for them to have faces? And so it was kind of like, oh yeah, I talk about boundaries all the time. I talk about, you being in charge of your gift, but for whatever reason I couldn't apply that in that situation. And so I, in my mind, just set that intention. If I'm going to connect with angels, please show me them, and please have them look more human, and have them be really calming, and bring a calming energy with them, and help that to not be a scary experience. And please, God, let them have faces. And so I, not very long after that, saw an angel for the first time in several years, and wouldn't you know that the universe bumped it up even a little bit better than I had asked for. And now almost every angel I see, not all of them, but the majority of the angels are male, and they are really hot male angels. So that's a perfect example of how you can set boundaries, or how you can sort of tweak that to be the way that you want it, to be the way that you would be comfortable with that, or that you would enjoy it. So it definitely makes it more enjoyable to interact with these angels. They're also beautiful. Even the girls are just beautiful, and they all have these amazing faces. So I'm thankful for that. So you can set boundaries around that. You can set boundaries around your dreams. So you can say, if you're going to give me intuitive dreams, please only show me things that are helpful, healing, or preventative. That's going to be an important intention for you to set. Helpful, healing, or preventative. If you decide that you want to try to do readings or something, that's an important intention for you to set as well. Helpful. Please allow me to receive messages that are only of a helpful, healing, preventative nature only. Because basically, anything else is stuff that's coming through that you don't know, or that you can't do a damn thing about. And what are you going to do with that? If you have a dream that somebody's going to get in a car accident and die, and then the next day they do, that's a horrible feeling. Like, who wants to know that in advance? I don't. Anyway, so you can set those boundaries. If it were preventative, and you could say, hey, please don't take this trip today, that dream will come through. But if it's something that's like, it's their time to go, I don't want to know. So just thinking about boundaries with all of this as we're working on connecting. And then I'm going to just talk about the clairs, and then I think that I'll wrap up for today, and we'll dive into the rest. Today's class, or this week's class, I guess, because there's going to be a couple, it's going to be a little bit longer than maybe the other ones, just because I have a lot of stuff that I want to cover with you guys. So I'm going to be just sharing a lot. The classes will be a little bit longer, just to make sure that I'm covering all of this stuff with you, because I think that it's important. So how do we receive intuitive information? And I want you to think about yourself, and maybe now that we're diving in, how you've received intuitive information in the past, what has stood out to you as I'm going through this. You might see, like, how do I connect? Because we tend to have one to two, sometimes three primary ways that we connect with our intuition. So different ways that we can connect, and we all will have certain ones that are a little bit more connected for us. So I'm going to go through them, and you can kind of like feel out, like, what ones feel like maybe they're the way that I receive intuitive information. So the first one is clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is a lot of times what we think of when we think of psychic information, because it tends to be the gift of vision, seeing, Now, my clairvoyance, like I said, is a little bit different than a lot of people experience, in that I tend to see some things with my physical eye. But for most people, and also for me, because I've kind of learned to allow this, it doesn't always have to happen outside of myself. I don't need it to happen outside of myself so much anymore. So I can allow that to happen in my mind's eye, and most people experience it in their mind's eye. When you experience it in your mind's eye, it's a little bit like a daydream, or just a quick vision or thought or picture that comes to mind, and it might just sort of come out of the blue and seem like it's in there. But a lot of times when we're daydreaming, or we're just having things run through our head, that's actually intuitive information that's coming through. So start to pay attention to what you're getting in your mind's eye, what comes through, and what feels like a daydream, or just a picture that comes to mind, or you randomly get this image in your head, or whatever, because you're probably connecting in a clairvoyant way. And a lot of people expect it to be like a movie that's playing in their mind or out in front of them, but it's not always that. It seems a little bit more like you're just imagining or a daydream a little bit. So that's clairvoyance. Clairaudience is hearing. So I tend to be pretty clairaudient as well. For me and for most people, how we experience that is within our own minds, in our own voice. And so this is where it can be difficult to tease out sometimes, because it'll come in your own voice, and it'll just be like this thought that comes through. So it's like you're assuming that it's your thought. But I've noticed that there are certain times for me where this tends to come through, and I've kind of learned how to like a little bit feel the difference in the energy when it's my thought or when it's something else coming through. So, you know, for me personally, it's when I'm driving in my car, when I'm doing things like putting makeup on or doing my hair or in the shower, kind of those times that I'm like in a little bit of a hypnotic state, I'll have these thoughts come through. And a lot of times it's easier to recognize them because they'll feel like really smart ideas or out of the blue ideas that almost are a little ridiculous or like off the beaten path. Like, what, you want me to do what? You know, like this is, you know, you have like this random idea that comes to mind or random thought that's maybe a little outside of your normal way of thinking, or a little bit more intelligent than your normal way of thinking, or whatever. So you begin to kind of feel the difference. I almost feel like with clairaudience, it almost comes from a different part of my brain. I don't know how to describe that with words. It's more of a feeling. You're going to find that all of this is about feeling and trusting what you feel. Your body is your greatest intuitive tool. So noticing where you feel stuff, how you feel stuff, paying attention to the bodily sensations that you feel through this whole process is going to be really, really huge. Always bring it back to the body. In fact, I'm going to be sharing with you over the next couple of days a video of or a recording of a body sensation meditation that I really, really love, from a book that I really love, because to me it's my favorite way to bring you through the bodily sensations and to get you to start connecting with that. But what I recommend that you guys do is actually, if you're somebody who already meditates, because meditation is going to be a huge part of this, if you can incorporate that, I recommend that you find some way to meditate, and we can talk more about that as I do the second part of this class, the second part of this video. But finding your own way to meditate in whatever style works best for you, because that's going to be a way that you connect to source, a way that you connect to your intuition. But one of my favorite meditations to do as you're learning how to use your body as your intuitive tool is to just close your eyes, begin to breathe slowly. You know, I like to listen to a little bit of soft music with it, and then I just start to pay attention to my body sensations, and that's it, and I follow it. So right now, you know, being a little bit under the weather, if I'm doing that activity now, I'm noticing that I'm feeling a burning in my throat, a difficulty breathing, and then like a little bit of tingling down in my toes, and my knee itches a little bit, and you see how you kind of follow the body and follow the sensations, and it's a really interesting experience. And as you do that, you begin to teach the mind to reconnect with the body again, to listen to the body again, because if you are tuned into your body, you are not going to miss a lot of your intuitive messages. It's one of the best ways. So anyway, you're going to hear me talk about what does that feel like? What is, you know, angels feel like this, spirit guides feel like this, intuition feels like this, but it's not something that I can always put into words, or usually put into words. It's going to be about what you feel in your body when you're making those connections, when you're feeling connected to your intuition. What does your body feel like? Do you get a sensation of flutter in your heart? Do you feel a little bit wobbly? Do you feel lightheaded? I mean, whatever it is, but there's going to be physical sensations, and it's going to be different for each and every one of us. I would love to hear if you guys notice that, how it feels when you're intuitive. Like, if you already know that, what it feels like, I would love to hear your description, because that's helpful. But again, it's going to be really different for each and every one of us, how we feel that. Clairsentience, and this is a perfect lead into that, is feeling. You know, so for those of you who are clairsentient, this is going to be a little bit easier for you because clairsentience is going to be a feeling in the body, whether it's physical body or it can be emotions, right? So this is for those empaths who are picking up on everybody else's emotions and everybody's energy, and there's a big energy exchange because you are built to be empathic. You are built to reflect what other people are feeling, to deeply, deeply understand other people. Or sometimes it can even be taking on physical pain. I'm kind of a believer that chronic pain, things like fibromyalgia, things like that, a lot of times are people who are highly energy sensitive whose body has just absorbed their pain and other people's pain, and they take it on. So you'll get like knee pain one day and back pain another day or whatever, and it's like the people that you're interacting with are people whose energy fields you've gone into. And this is where working on building your light up more is going to be really important to help to filter out some of that energy so you're not taking it on so much. So we're going to talk about that. Claircognizance is clear knowing. Now this is like, to me, the most pure form of intuition, and because the other ones are kind of like, oh, I'm feeling this, I'm seeing this, I'm hearing this, and then I have to interpret what it is that is going, like maybe we're going to talk about symbolism in the next recording, but maybe I'm receiving information that is a vision of some kind or something like that, and I have to interpret what that symbolically means to me. I'll dive into that, so that's going to make more sense later, but our intuition can oftentimes come in symbolic forms, and so we're sort of forced to like take a step back and ask ourselves, what does that mean to me, or what is a symbolic representation for? Whereas claircognizance is just direct knowing. There's no like path to figuring it out. You just know the answer. And so for those of you, that can almost be difficult because the claircognizant people don't always know or recognize that they're intuitive because there isn't that process. And so it's like they just know the answer and they just follow it, or they don't follow it and then they're screwed or whatever, But they just like, it's so direct that they just respond to it without even recognizing that that's what's happening for you. So if you're somebody who just like responds, I found that I was more clairaudient and clairvoyant before, but that has progressed a bit where it's more claircognizant. So in my psychic development, I talk less now about I see this, I hear this, whatever. Sometimes I get that, but sometimes it is just that claircognizance where it's just I know what I'm talking about. I just start talking and I just know. So that's powerful when you can connect with that. But a lot of times people who are claircognizant will doubt themselves or doubt their abilities because there isn't that process to get there. So again, I want you guys to remember to not compare yourselves to each other. That's really important. Clairalience is connecting through smell. So this is less common, but it does come up for people. I once met somebody who I did intuition development, and this was her primary gift. And so she could, how do I even explain? She could read people's energy, but it was like she would create like a smell profile. So I think she told me that like my smell, and not what I physically smelled like, but her intuitive interpretation of my energy was that I was dandelions and sunshine. And so she would kind of like have these ways that she would understand people, and it would make sense to her. Like it all made total sense to her brain. She would just have these smell profiles for them. So that was really cool. Or when you get a smell that's kind of out of the blue, maybe like the scent of a perfume or a cologne or a cigar smoke or cigarette smoke or something, that'll come through commonly when you're doing mediumship work where you're connecting with crossed loved ones and they're trying to show you something about them for you to share with the people who are sitting in front of you for the reading. So that can come through sometimes food, different things. So if you're smelling food randomly out of the blue, that could be that as well. And then clairgustance is taste. So it's funny, like I don't experience this often, but every great once in a while when I'm done with a reading, I will get the weirdest food cravings. Like I'll get the taste for it in my mouth and it's like, oh, I really want to have this right now. And so often I've had to like take a step back and recognize, you don't even really want that. Like this isn't something you even eat, or really enjoy. So what is this about? And when you recognize that, you can start to disconnect from that. So, but that can come up as well, and it can come up sometimes when you're, again, it's like more of a mediumship thing I find often. That'll come up when, the person is wanting, like you might taste spaghetti in your mouth, and it's because that person is trying to tell you that their favorite food was spaghetti. So you want to just process when you're trying to connect intuitively. And this isn't always about readings. I keep talking about readings, but this is more about you and your best life path is what this course is about. But you might have that experience, and, how it might apply to you is, I had somebody I was working with, and we were talking about this problem, this issue with her ear, and she kept having the taste of thyme in her mouth. She was like, that's really weird. I keep tasting thyme, like the spice. And so what we determined is that was something that her body was telling her she needed to address this ear issue. So wouldn't you know, she started to use, I think, the essential oil in some way. I can't remember. I don't know if she put it right in her ear. I can't remember what she did with it, but she incorporated it in some way, and the issue was resolved. It was pretty impressive. So we can get messages in all kinds of ways and connect in all kinds of ways. So those are the clairs. Before we wrap up for today, I just want to really quickly, and I'm going to share a link to this on the page, but I want to talk about just thinking about daily and regularly raising your vibration. And we will dive in. There's a whole week that's dedicated to this, but to raising your vibration, we will dive into that. But I want you to begin to think about that. And one of the ways that I think about that, or that I raise my vibration, is through visualization. And what I find is that when you are visualizing working with the light, this specifically will help to filter your energy field. So again, I want to say filter, not protect, because to me, protect is an okay energy, but filter is a little bit higher. And when we get to a certain point, we might not even use that word filter, because the light is just doing its thing up here at a high vibration for us, so we don't even need to focus on filtering. But I will post my meditation for just inviting light into your system and setting positive and beautiful energy intentions for your body. This is something that I recommend that you do every day. This is something that I recommend that you do in the morning and at night before you go to bed. It's like 6 minutes long. It's a powerful meditation. So if you're not sure where to start with meditation, this is a great place for you to start. And I promise you, if you're doing this twice a day, you're going to feel more connected to your intuition. So it's a great place to start. And so I will share that. But what that's going to do is, while we're on this journey, while we're on this process, and we are inviting ourselves to open up, we are also ensuring that we're connecting only with energies that are of the light. So I'm setting that intention for us right now, that this is what we are doing, that we're connecting with only information that we need to know for our highest and best good, and that we are receiving information that is helpful, healing, or preventive only on this journey, because we don't need to know anything else, like I said. So those are my intentions for today. We will dive into signs and synchronicities and symbols and working with that when I do the second recording for week 1. I'm probably going to work on that Friday or Saturday if I can, but my voice is just basically done right now, guys, and I can't breathe. So I'm gonna cut out for today, but I wanted to get us started. And like I said, all of the classes are not going to be quite this long. So thank you for being patient with me, but I just have a ton of information to share with you guys this week. I would love for you guys to share, to introduce yourself in the group, to share who you are, to share why you're here, to share maybe a goal or many goals that you have for yourself that are specifically connected to this course, because that is your intention that you are setting. So you might list it as a goal, you might list it as an intention, and just tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you want to share. I'm not a big, huge sharer when I'm first starting to get comfortable with a group, so I understand when people are feeling a little cautious about what they're sharing. Just share at this point, at any point in this group, whatever it is that you feel comfortable sharing. I'll be posting homework, I'll be posting meditations, so keep checking back. Like I said, make sure that you are getting the notifications for this group so that you're not missing out on anything that I'm sharing, because especially at first, it will be a lot of different things. So best of luck to you guys as you're getting started on your intuitive journey, and that is my intention, and I encourage you to set this intention for yourself, that you are now opening to a new level of connecting with your intuition, and that is going to help guide you for your highest and best good. Thank you guys, and I will see you guys in just a couple of days. Take care.